Welcome back to Cuyahoga Sound Podcast. I'm Evan Stone.
I'm Chuck Shoreline.
Today in studio we have saxophone player Marty Gierczyk.
That's it.
I said it right.
Yes.
Cool.
Great.
We're going out on that high note then?
Yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah, thanks guys. Appreciate it.
Cool. New to Cleveland, right?
Yes, I've been here for about 10 months at this point. Yep. Moved from Chicago. Me and my girlfriend, Christina, moved out here so I could explore new avenues in my career, which was, I guess, it's kind of weird because I say it's my career, but my passion and my love is music. But, to pay the bills, we moved out here to kind of further that. I'm in construction management, so they had some opportunities out here. And Chicago life was, especially in our neighborhood, was getting kind of sketchy. The violence was up on the north side. We lived just a couple blocks away from Wrigleyville, right by Montrose Harbor. So we moved out here and ended up finding a close friend now. Now I can consider him a close friend, Mikey Silas, at an open mic at Grog Shop. I saw that. I was like, hey, what's going on? I went on Facebook and I was like, hey, is there any jams going on? Because I like to get, I like to see what's going on with the Cleveland music scene, and that's a great way to do it.
Was that like Halloween time? This jam night?
What was it? It was Thanksgiving. It was actually Thanksgiving
okay, I remember
night.
I remember a holiday around it because I was like gonna come to that one and got sick or something came up.
Yeah,
those Beachland jams are great.
Yeah, Beachland jams are great, and
but this was the Grog Shop.
This was Grog Shop, and we ended up. I had just reached out to him because I saw that he lived in Chicago for 5 years, and it's like, oh, maybe I can talk with him, and we can, I was feeling a little homesick. It had been about a month since we moved, and maybe we can, converse and get to talk to him about, some music and see what's going on in the scene, and ended up talking with him, becoming great friends. I also met the wonderful drummer Chris Walker that night as well, Vibe and Direct and Broccoli Samurai. And I didn't really realize, but that was like the birth of this wonderful thing that we've been doing, Shoreline Funk All Stars. So it all stemmed off of me coming out here, kind of just not knowing what to expect from Cleveland, especially coming from a larger city, and ending up meeting some fantastic musicians and getting to grow with them. And just the small amount of time that we've been playing together is just it's grown me as a musician for sure. And it's the way that we connected and kind of just clicked right away was something that I wasn't expecting at all.
Great. And you so like funk music, all kinds of funk, all eras.
Yeah. I'm really I like to listen to a lot of different music. I grew up listening to Madonna, Kool and the Gang, listening to NWA, and then Gap Band, Zapp and Roger, Parliament, and the Ohio Players, obviously, listening to these cats. And I've always gravitated towards music, but funk music is just something that, everyone can relate to. It doesn't matter if you get it or not. It's just something that just makes you wiggle, and that's what it's all about. So I've gravitated towards playing funk music because you can sit in a pocket, you can really develop some stuff, and it can go somewhere completely different. It doesn't have to stay funk, but it's at its heart and its core. We always try to encapsulate funk, but make it modern, I think, because you get the stigma of when you think of funk, you think, the cats that I just named off, P-Funk, you think Bootsy Collins, you think George Clinton, and you think of classic funk, I guess, but funk is it's got a certain groove, it's got a certain tempo, it's got a certain feel, but that doesn't mean that I can't go somewhere else and still be funk at heart. So with Shoreline, we just try to keep that going, and even in life, like, you know, when you're playing this type of music, and you're throwing it back to the roots of what it is, you have respect for that. But the only way to perpetuate the scene and the genre, or whatever genre you're going for, is to keep pushing its limits and its boundaries. And when you do that, something magical happens. It's something that it doesn't happen. Sometimes it's not just like a, you know, oh, it's there. You know, you might not always get that aha moment, because the aha moment happens after the culmination of so many things in a perfect storm of music and playing. And that aha moment is not the aha moment. The aha moment is when you guys are building to that aha moment. You know what I mean? So funk is one of those quintessential genres and feels that you'll always feel it. No, I have never heard somebody say, "Oh man, you play funk? You know, screw that. Like, funk sucks." You know, I've never heard anybody say funk sucks.
Yeah,
you know,
I don't think I have.
you know.
It's a good way to detect a Terminator.
Yes.
The dog's barking and the guy says funk sucks.
And then the eyes glow red,
Yeah.
and then you're screwed.
You're in trouble.
What are some other genres that you are influenced by that helps you push the boundaries of funk?
I started playing bebop. As a sax player, you gravitate towards jazz. I mean, that's the first thing that you really get into when you want to explore something else other than concert band. You know, I started playing sax when I was in 4th grade, and I didn't really know where it was going to go. I just enjoyed the instrument, and, you know, there were, I think, like 32 other alto players, and I was at the bottom of the list, you know, a concert band, because it wasn't really my bag, but I enjoyed how everyone came together, that my part was integral to what second clarinet was doing, or, you know, later on playing tenor, like I was sitting next to the trombones and French horns, and how our lines kind of mingled together, and it was just the combination of all those sounds making this beautiful, beautiful music. But I didn't really get into jazz until it was, I mean, I guess it was a couple years later. I started playing tenor sax after alto. I remember my mom saying, "Are you sure? That's a big instrument." Like, I like, you know, it was like, that's going to cost a lot, basically, you know. But my band director was really cool. She's like, "No, we got a sax for you. So if you want to play this, we really need you to fill this spot." Started, you know, and then I got into jazz band, and I remember us doing warm-ups, and we had this book called Chop Monsters, and you just played, you know, a couple warm-ups. It was like the essential elements for jazz at the time, you know, essential elements being that Bible for beginners and intermediates in middle school and grade school. And so I remember he puts on the backing track, because we were too young to know how to, you know, to run a 12-bar blues. Like, rhythm's just barely, you know, chopping wood on the kit. So, you know, let alone walking bass lines. So he puts on the track, and he's like, "All right, Marty, go ahead and take a solo." He's like, "Use this scale." And it was the B-flat blues scale. And I was like, I can play any notes in this scale and it's going to be cool. And he's like, you can literally play any single one of these notes. And then I started playing, and I was like, this is fun. I don't have to read music for this. Like, I can just be creative. And then that kind of spiraled into using that scale and then coming up with different rhythms. And with the different rhythms, I learned that I needed more notes. I didn't have enough notes for what my brain was thinking. I was like, I need more notes. And then I started getting to private lessons, and then it was kind of one of those things that once you get the ball rolling, you can't really stop it. You know, the train was moving, and you know, getting into all of that was it just took off, and being a part of you know, bebop. When you're that young, you really start to your mind is more malleable. I think when you're younger, you learn things, you grasp things more, And of course, you were going to go through, John Coltrane, Sonny Stitt, Sonny Rollins, and Dexter Gordon. That was one of the guys that I really got into high school after I was taking private lessons, and I was playing more outside of just the high school jazz band. I was starting to play in gigs, at the country club or some private. We had a bank that asked the high school combo, hey, can you guys come and play for our Christmas party? And we did. And it's like, once you start getting outside of what the teachers tell you to do is when you start to really develop as a player. Because a lot of people, a lot of players, a lot of musicians these days, and I think throughout history, needed to tell somebody, no, I'm not doing this in order to grow. And it's hard to do when you have so many. You have these people who are teaching you things, and at some point you have to realize, you know what, they are teaching me things, but I have creativity of my own. So how can I be creative? Because they don't necessarily teach you creativity. It comes from inside of you. They have you shed licks, and I remember one of the first solos that I did was "Locomotion" by John Coltrane, and off of Blue Train, excuse me, and just getting into it, digging into it. And I'm like, I want to start writing some of this stuff. I want to get into this. And so what I learned, the best way to learn is to listen, is to shut up and listen. Listen to all those cats. Listen to everyone, Jerry Mulligan. Listen to, obviously Miles, Maynard Ferguson, and the list goes on. I listened to so much stuff like Joe Henderson, Pat Metheny, Michael Brecker, the Brecker brothers, Steely Dan I was into, and those influences, you just listen and you're like, I like that lick, I'm stealing your lick. Because in music, you have to realize that everything has been played before. Every note, every lick, every chord combo, it's how you make it your own. So to listen to other people, that's the best way to grow, is to emulate. And not just with notes and rhythms, it's sound. When I did John Coltrane's Locomotion, what I really wanted to do is I wanted it to sound like I was John Coltrane. The timbre, the pitch, inflection, his tonguing, his I wanted to, if I could find any old movies, any old film from back then, see how his jaw's moving to mess with your airflow and to this every tiny nuance. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have Dexter Gordon. When I was in college, I listened to Dexter Gordon, and and one of my favorite albums is Tangerine. One of my favorite songs by him is "I Guess I'll Hang My Tears Out to Dry," and what he has is he's got this low. When you're playing low on the horn, there's two ways you can make it sound. You can just blow, and it'll make a low sound. But there's the subtleties of a subtone, which it's like this fluffy, pillowy, airy sound. It's almost how it was described to me was, think about just fa 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 fa, and if you listen to him, you hear that the fa 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 da fa fa va va, and you just hear it just kind of like, it's just like the last bit of breath from his voice. He's just, he's so deflated from his issues in this song that it's just like he is just tired, and you can hear it, but then it's strong still. It's still got body to it. But listening to all these cats and getting into what they're thinking, I think that's what really shaped me as a player, is getting into their sound and trying to do exactly what they're doing, and then listening to like Morris Day and the Time. It's like you listen to these bebop cats playing standards from the real book, and then you're listening to, you hear Atomic Dog, and then from P-Funk, and you get into some of the other like 80s and late 70s horn bands, Brecker Brothers, with Steely Dan, Randy and Michael Brecker. Those two cats were wild. And my influence is drawn from everywhere. Even like Madonna, like listening to how they're doing stuff. So it's just everywhere, man. Like life is influential, I think, in my playing, I'd have to say.
Nice.
Awesome.
I caught something in there, and it made me think of, like, I don't know any saxophone slang. So when you were talking about watching these old videos to see how their jaw was positioned and you're trying to get the tones right, you hear from guitar players all the time that tone is in the fingers.
Yeah.
Is there a saxophone term for that, like tone is in the jaw?
I don't know really. It's all about with the sax. It's all about it's about the basics. Obviously with guitars too and any instrument, but there's not really. It relies a lot on. I don't know if there's really a term for it, but there's disciplines that you need to go through it to be a successful sax player or to have a successful sound, I guess. One of them is your jaw, your embouchure. There's a lot of things you can do to strengthen. You have 200 muscles in your face, and each one of those affects the tone that comes out of your mouth. The airflow. You think of it's a lot of people like when you give them a sax, like it's funny, having friends over or whatever, having a couple beers, and my sax is sitting there like, hey, can I try it? I'm like, yeah, whatever. And then they can't make a sound, and then literally I put it up. I'm like, no, you got to do this, and it's literally it sounds come out because you have to directionalize the airflow. You have to breathe from the bottom of your lungs, and you don't high chest breathe. You breathe from the bottom so you can support that sound. And when you're blowing it, think of a garden hose with an egg in the back of your throat. So you're like fogging a window. You're not going. You're fogging that window so you can get that big old sound out of that mouthpiece. And a lot of it has to do with the mouthpiece and the gear that you're using. Larger spacing. On a mouthpiece. It lets more air flow through the horn. There's the size reed that you use, the thicker the reed, the longer it lasts, but you can customize your reeds to your tone. There's a whole different world out there where you can build your own reeds, you can customize them. They have reed knives, they have sandpaper. We went through all of that, just me and my private lesson teacher to show me there's a whole other world. There's, besides just playing, but, there's, the way that your jaw moves when you're playing and how to get the subtleties when you're playing altissimo. Altissimo is when you have certain fingerings, but you hear that real high stuff like Lenny Pickett, Saturday Night Live band, and G.E. Smith when that sax player is going up there. That's all altissimo, and basically what they're in tune squeaks. You find a good fingering, and there's fingering charts, and there's books on how to do it, and you find different fingerings, the ones that make that squeak in tune, basically, and then how to work on that. The saxophone's third register, where you're dropping there's so many things that develop your sound, and it's not just one thing. It's not just like technique, it's if you want to play fast, you can't play fast if your fingers are off the pearls. You got to keep them on the pearls of the pads, of the buttons. You got to keep them right on there when you're wiggling. If you throw them off there, it's slowing you down. It's like getting a good jump and track. Like if you got to keep your head down, you got to. There's so many things. So long story short, I don't think that there's one word. It's just how much time you're willing to put into it. I think, and that's with everything.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
It definitely with how you get tone through your fingers. That's something you never stop working on.
Yeah.
I'm a guitarist by trade, and anything fretted I can basically teach. And he is a drummer. Chuck's a drummer by trade, but he does guitar a little, and he's doing some bass.
Yeah, I'm having fun with bass.
Yeah,
because I know where I would want me to be.
That's right. You want the drummer
you're
to
right
be.
where you're supposed to be.
I know where I want me.
So, saxophone. That sounds like really complex. A lot going into it, and when I look at a saxophone, I would have no idea where to start, where the notes are, how to play the notes. It looks like a spaceship, like controls.
Yeah, it looks a little confusing, especially when you're like, you get this thing and it's just a big old cone that's bent, and there's this weird mouthpiece and a piece of wood slapped to it, and it's tied down, and then you got all these contraptions and weird things to put your fingers. But saxophone is one of the easiest instruments to play, to get started and to make a sound, to actually, if saxophone, it like comes back to how involved you want to get with it, and that's like with everything. But it is one of the easier things. If you can make a sound, if you can blow through it right, and you can wiggle your fingers, you're playing saxophone. You're playing it. But to get to a certain level, it's how many hours a day are you going to sit in that practice room, in a dark basement, in a soundproof room in college, and literally you're at your laptop and you have your sheet music, and you're like, all you're doing is you have a tone playing, and you do these exercises like long tones, where you just play one note, and you start super soft, and then you crescendo over maybe 16 bars, and then you can take a breath or whatever. But then when you're at your very highest, fortissimo, whatever, then you take that and then you don't waver your tone. It's just going to be this sound. And then you try to bring it back down all the way to pianissimo again. And then, we used to start on our scales. If we're doing this, B flat scale, start on B flat, do that. And then the next note is C. And then you do it again. And it's like 32 bars for each note, just whole notes, and that develops the muscles in your mouth and your cheeks, and also your airflow. So there's so many different things that you can incorporate into saxophone. And initially, it's a pretty easy instrument to play, but to get it started is a lot easier than guitar, or bass or drums. To be a drummer, it's to have that, to split your brain in two, and essentially, or be ambidextrous and really work on that stuff just to get the fundamentals down is exponentially harder than playing saxophone.
Yeah, I actually played saxophone in third grade.
Yeah.
I think I could probably still nail hot cross buns.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Give me a recorder and I'll be out of band.
There you go.
Cool. What's the range on a saxophone, like octave wise?
It's about it's about 3 octaves. A low C, which is it's a low B flat below the staff if you are playing on a soprano, alto, or tenor. Barry has most Barrys nowadays, the Salmers, and they have a low A key. And that's the A below the staff in treble clef. And then it goes all the way up to a high F sharp. A lot of saxophones nowadays have an F sharp key, and that's F sharp above the staff. And that's the range of what you can play. That's what you can finger on a saxophone, basically. But you can go higher, like I was saying, altissimo. You can go to G, A, B. You can do every single note up there, but it's finding that fingering and your embouchure and where that sweet spot is, and then just piercing it, just keep hitting it, or working up to it, and then be like, okay, I'm gonna go, G, A, B, C, and then you frack a note. You're like, crap, and then you go back down and you work back up to it, and then you're like, okay, I want to go from G to C, and then you start doing those jumps. So then your embouchure can get used to that muscle memory movement and where your air's flowing and how you're moving your jaw and what alternate fingering you're using. So it's pretty wide range.
You play the Barrys a lot?
I played Barry in high school a little bit for I forget what it was called. It was every 3 years or 2 or 3 years they had orchestral winds, it was called, and I didn't want to play tenor. I was like, they're like, hey, we need a Barry player, and the other Barry player's playing water polo. Can you do this? And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. You got a Barry? They're like, yeah, we got one. It was a rusty old thing, but it was fun. And it's just, then Barry's...
I'm sorry to interrupt. Are the fingering is different between like Barry, alto, soprano?
They're basically the same. Like I said, Barry has a low A key, and the biggest thing is airflow. They're all. It's a stacked instrument. It's a conical stacked instrument. Stacked meaning that you can't see what you're playing and you can't play chords. I mean, you can play. There's overtones. There's the Overtone Series, but you can play two notes at the same time, or so that's a whole different world. That's the third register they call. That's like CIA released documents compared to public records. They're there, but you got to find them. They're released and they're in the archives. But if nobody tells you about the third register and your teachers aren't teaching you that, you'll never find it. They have books. There's a Cinta book on it about applying the third register. We had to do at Western Illinois with John Vanna, wonderful saxophone professor. We ended up doing the third register there, and that was the Cinta books. It was one of his teachers, and we used to have to play Reveille. But we'd have to just finger one fingering, and that was the low B flat. And it wasn't low. It was basically bum bum ba dun 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 dun. But you'd have to do it with your mouth and air. So you're moving your jaw bum 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 ba dun 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 just to play all those notes while not moving your fingers. That's a whole different world. It's like it's like some psychic shit. But it's like it's crazy. But
so those notes that are they're overtones that create harmony, are they like octaves or like melodic intervals that the overtone adds?
It's the Overtone Series, so there are melodic. They're the melodic intervals. They all basically every note that you play has an overtone series on it. And what we learned was we'd start on the low B flat, and you'd play B flat, and then you'd play D, but you fingering a B flat, and then you'd sound a D, and then you'd sound an F, sound an A, sound a B flat, and you go through those intervals, because the Overtone Series is based off of the melodic intervals, but within the overtones. So you will be playing you're still playing. There's only certain notes you can play with a certain fingering. And that's what you learn to do, and that's what helps you develop your altissimo too. If you're working at the low end, then you're going to get the high end. So, but yeah, getting back to your question to answer that, all the saxophones have basically the same fingering, and it goes. There's and I think I missed this. There's the Sopranino saxophone, which is the little one. If you've ever seen the band Marbin, they're hot. They're cool cats, man. They can really blow.
At the bop stop. So, man,
yeah, dude, they're bad. And they got their player. His name's escaping me right now, but he plays a Sopranino. It's like it looks like a little toy, and it's like maybe a foot tall or something. And so you have Sopranino, you've got soprano, you've got alto, tenor, bari, then you have bass sax, and then you have contrabass sax. And contrabass sax is massive. It's absolutely a monster. It's like I think it's like 2 stories tall or something. I might have that wrong. There might be a deeper one that they've made. Yeah. I know that there's one that you have to sit on a stool to play. Yeah. A pretty tall stool, but.
Do the reeds change with all those sizes?
Basically, if you're playing on a contrabass saxophone, it is a 2x4 that you slap to this thing. Yeah, the mouthpiece is about the size of a soprano. It's like maybe half the size, but it's big, but that doesn't necessarily mean that playing a lower saxophone is going to be tougher to play. Bari sax is one of the easier ones to play. You play. It's all about you get the tone from the vibration of the reed, and the air moving through it. And so, I think one of the hardest saxophones to play is the tenor, and that's just strictly because it's a bigger instrument than the alto and from the alto and the soprano. But it's right in that Goldilocks zone of air and reed vibration and pushing enough air, having enough lung capacity to get those notes out through the keys and the bell, and making it sound good. With the bari, the mouthpiece is 6 to 8 inches long. So that's its own instrument, and then it vibrates through the bell, through the conical shape, and comes out through the keys and the bell. But it's a lot easier to sound. Alto is pretty easy. in terms of getting a good tone, and when I think of playing sax, and how easy or hard it is, I think about tone. I don't think about how easy or hard it is to play a note through it. It's the quality of the note. That's why you hear a lot of people who pick up sopranos, and it's just, man, it's just shrill. It just makes you want to rip your hair out and pull your teeth. It's bad sometimes, and it's hard to get a good tone out of that. And it's you got John Coltrane doing some massive stuff with that, and people don't give enough credit to Kenny G. And he's a phenomenal player. He chose to do what he's doing with his music, but that doesn't take away the fact that he is a phenomenal musician. Like David Sanborn. He's another phenomenal dude. And he plays alto, but it's the size of the instrument doesn't necessarily tell you the difficulty of that instrument.
So you're saying that the harder part of playing saxophone isn't in the fingering at all. It's all in the blowing.
Yeah. Because you can, if you work at it, you can move your fingers as fast. You start slow and you just progress. Yeah, you're not going to be, you're not going to be running these crazy, omnibook style Charlie Parker licks right off the bat. You got to start slow with your breathing and your tone. You need to listen more and to know what you want to sound like. And that's the hardest part, knowing what you want to sound like when you haven't played it. So it's all in the airflow. It's like your capacity and how you're going to breathe. Trying to get enough air in there and then doing it efficiently. Because if you play, like, my flute skills are not very good, but you try blowing over a flute after coming from sax and you don't know what you're doing, you're going to pass out. You're throwing too much air over that mouthpiece and you're not making any noise. But you're not efficiently using the air at your disposal to make the sound. So yeah, it's tone. You can have the best hardware in the world, and it's still not going to make you, sound better.
Yeah. Cool. So you mentioned flute. You do any other brass or woodwinds?
I haven't played flute and clarinet for a while. I started off on clarinet. I didn't start off on sax because clarinets are cheaper. So they start everyone off, at least at my school, they started everyone off on clarinet. So you had like 60 clarinets playing at once, that was cool. But then the saxophone kids are divvied up and they're like, okay, here's your alto, here's your Yamaha student, learn this. It's different because clarinet, you don't necessarily, a lot of clarinet players now have neck straps, but liquor sticks, you don't need to. It's all in the thumb rest, so you can sit down and sit there, and it's pretty comfortable. A lot of them are made out of plastic or wood. Saxophone is a woodwind made out of brass, so you need the neck strap in order to kind of support yourself. And a lot of younger kids, it's tough for them to even put that thing around their neck and support it for an hour or a half hour lesson. It's tough, but I started off on clarinet, and when I was in college, I learned how to play flute and clarinet somewhat. I was passable. We'd have to do doubles for certain tunes, like Glenn Miller tunes. You had to Glenn Miller. All their horn players played flute and clarinet back in the big band era days when that was really going and ripping. All saxophone players played flute and clarinet. If you're a gigging musician, if you're a sax player that didn't play flute and clarinet, it didn't, you were unusable, because it was about the sound. Glenn Miller Orchestra, that's a big one. When we playing Glenn Miller stuff, high school we did some of that, and the clarinet players would come in and play that. But in college, they're like, well, guess what? Get a flute. Rent a clarinet. We got one. If we got one in stock, you can rent it. Go get lessons from, see if the clarinet, professor has time for you, or get on YouTube, and start really getting down with it. And then you'd go buy a book at the music store, and you kind of start from the beginning. And that's humbling, is when you're like, I'm like, oh yeah, dude, I'm first tenor in the top jazz band. I'm a freshman, no problem. I'm like, I got this. It's like clarinet. Oh yeah, I started on clarinet. And then you go and you're like, then you start playing. You're like, this is a totally different animal because your embouchure changes. The way the mouthpiece sits in your mouth changes. Fingerings it's basically the same stacked setup, but it's a different. They're all different notes. They're not what you're used to. If I finger in a sax, then it's totally different than what a clarinet is. So it's humbling. And flute, I don't know how many times we were doing warm ups, and I got this flute, and I'm just working on them. And flute has the same fingerings as a saxophone. It's kind of the same. So when we're sitting there and we're trying to play our warm ups, running all of our scales, and doing our major, minor, half diminished, fully diminished, augmented chords. Going all the way to the ninth and coming back down. At the end of that, we were supposed to do that in about 10 minutes. Just with the flute, just to go over all of our scales, all the major scales, all the minor scales, and that's what it started off as 10 minutes, and then we tried to do all of them in, I want to say it was like 2 or 3 minutes. Try to get those down. So when you're on a flute and you're trying to do that, you don't even care. You're just wiggling your fingers and blowing air, trying to, especially when you don't know what you're doing. So that was another humbling thing. And then you see somebody start nodding off, going down. Especially if they had a late night at the frat house or something. They're just going down. You're like, hey, no, come on, we got augmented chords to go. Let's go. So, but. Yeah, no, I dabble. I still have my flute and my clarinet. I've been thinking about picking those back up. My day gig has kind of slowed me down on that, but more time is coming, and it's gonna be. I'm just looking to keep going. I actually play iwi as well, an electronic wind instrument.
Yeah.
So, people
saw
call
that thing on. The last time I saw you guys play at Beachland, I saw you bust that thing out.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's the space sax.
I've only seen it one other time. There's a band called Big Something.
Yeah. Yep.
Their guy plays it.
Yeah, he's real good. Yeah, he knows exactly what's going on with that. And it's funny.
I think I've seen Charlie play one too.
Charlie has one. Yeah, we were talking. He's got to get his fixed up so we can have a little duel, have a little fun with them.
Looks like something out of the Star Wars Cantina.
I gotta
band.
check that out.
It definitely does, and some of those sounds sound like it too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's another fun instrument. I got one after seeing there's a YouTube video out there, and I didn't know this existed until I saw this video. Someone came. It was it was senior year in high school. It was Michael Brecker, and it's an old early 90s, I think it was at Live in the Montreux, and it was his band, and it was a song called Song for Barry. And I saw this, and it's a MIDI controller. You can do whatever you want with this. It can run through your talk box. It can run through, I run it through my Korg M3 workstation. You can use it as a sample pad. You can use it to loop. You can change your every different note fingering on it is a different trigger for a different sound. And if you're running through MIDI, it's endless. So I saw him play this, and you got to check it out because it's some of the stuff he does. It's I want to say it's a 10-minute video, and he plays 3-4 different movements just on this one instrument. And he's got pedals all over the place. And he's just going, and he's just so chill about it. And it gives you, I'm getting goosebumps right now thinking about it. It's just one of those things. And I was I just talked to my dad. I was like, Dad, you got to get this. This thing's bad. And he's like, you gonna play it? Or I'm like, that's why I want it. I want to play this thing. He's like, can you do that stuff? I'm like, I don't know. If you buy it for me, maybe we'll see. And but I just fell in love with it instantly. It's, and then listening, and then seeing so many other people in the jam scene, especially Nick Gerlach. He is an amazing sax player, and the way he uses his iwi. I was fortunate enough to have him for my birthday party one year at Tonic Room in Chicago, and he came up from Indianapolis, and he's like, oh, what do you want to do? I'm like, well, can you bring the Iwi? And he's like, yeah. So what he did is he brought his little fatty, the brain to his little fatty, and he just plugged that thing in, and we had a great time. And there's so much you can do with it. It's unbelievable. So I'd say I play sax and Iwi, I guess. So there you go.
We're both overflowed over here.
Foam.
I caught it.
Yeah.
I had no mess.
Well, it's my house. I'm allowed to make a mess. That's what I'm calling it. We probably have a lot of saxophone players that are listening now going, these two are idiots.
Oh, yeah.
Which
I love these episodes when like we don't know shit.
Yeah.
And like my saxophone knowledge is like gone up 1,000% in just the last whatever.
So I
40
told you
minutes.
I played in third grade. Do you know who rented me the instrument?
Was it Mr. Chuck Kaminsky?
Mr. Chuck Kaminsky, the basement trader himself.
Basement trader.
Painesville, Ohio. This is pre-basement trader. This is working for Arrowhead Music in Menor, back at its old location when it used to be next to what was Taco Bell, which was fantastic. Hooked me up with that. Played a Bundy too. Yeah, I had that, and my dad ended up buying it at the end of it because it was pretty affordable after running it for the year. They gave us a discount, but
Cool.
He's got all kinds of cool stuff to check out.
Can you tell us more about this guy, Chuck Kaminsky?
Chuck Kaminsky, he's a tall, dark, and handsome is how I would describe him.
You can describe him that way if you'd like. Yeah.
Well, it was dark. But Chuck has two gear channels or stores on Reverb shops. I don't like on Reverb while I'm talking about this how you can't go into the regular search bar and search for the store. You have to click on shops and then search through the shops page in order to get to it.
Yeah, man, that you could be doing something completely better with that 5 seconds you lose.
Yes, it's killing me, man. It's killing me. But anyways, Chuck has two shops. One is all the instruments, and one is all the accessories. So he's got a lot of new and used basses and guitars. He's got effects. He's got amps. He's got all kinds of stuff, and he's also quick turnaround for setups and repairs.
That's right. Yeah, I was just playing my acoustic earlier today, and that I just got set up by Chuck, and it didn't go out of tune for like a week from playing it. I put the clip on, and I didn't have to adjust one knob.
Awesome.
This is crazy.
Nice.
Just
go visit Chuck, and you won't have to touch your knob.
You won't have to.
No.
Any of your knobs.
None of your knobs.
That's Basement Trader, BASSMENT Trader.com. And he's been with us since the beginning of this podcast by helping us with these great microphones.
Yeah.
What a hookup.
He's the man.
Cool. Let's mention a couple other of our partnerships here.
All right, Listen CLE. You want to move on to them?
Yeah, Listen CLE is...
they got a lot of stuff. They're multi-dimensional here.
A lot of stuff. I just went through their updated artist directory that they have. Marty, you know about this? Because I think I saw the Funk All-Stars on there. But the ListenCLE.com is Cleveland's promotion group, or I don't know what you would call them.
It says on there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, they so you can go to ListenCLE.com, and if you're a musician or if you're looking for an act for your event, they have an artist directory that you can sign yourself up for, and you can even use it as your electronic press kit for trying to book your own shows. You know.
And apart from that, they've got their local mood-based podcast or playlist.
Playlists. Yeah.
Playlist. I say that wrong every time.
80% of the time.
80% of the time, it's wrong every time.
That's 9 mood-based playlists instead of genre-based. And they all are Cleveland artists, or Northeast Ohio, Akron,
cool.
Youngstown.
All right.
Very cool. If you go to listencle.com, you'll find links to all the playlists.
They've also been working with the Rock Hall for Sundays, having artists play outside of the Rock Hall on Sundays.
That's right, yeah. Brought to you by Listen CLE.
Yeah.
Great.
They're doing awesome things.
Yeah. Cleveland is more than just the birthplace of rock and roll. This city is brimming with new and exciting artists and established favorites. So discover the depth of Cleveland's amazing music scene and find your next favorite band with Listen CLE, a series of mood-based playlists that are all local, all the time.
Did you come up with that off the top of your head?
I did.
That was quite eloquent.
It's beautiful.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's beautiful.
poetry.
Did you see the AJ in the Woods sticker at the end of the table there?
I did. I'm also promoting AJ in the Woods on my koozie.
So you listen to the new album, I assume?
Yes.
Okay. So I listened to it. You all right
On
there?
vinyl?
I listened to it on vinyl. The way that first track starts, it sounds like vinyl, but very kind of thin before it kicks in. So I just thought something was wrong with my record player. I was like, this fucking thing, I just recapped it. You know, I got an old tube record player. I'm like, I just put new caps in this thing. What the? And then it kicked in. I was like, you got me. You got me.
Love that.
They button hooked me. I didn't see it coming.
Yeah, we just interviewed AJ in the Woods. They released a brand new album, Stay Steady, and by the time this comes out, they will have done their release show at the House of Blues with Apostle Jones and Brent Kirby and
That's
the Morning
Saturday,
Bird.
right?
That's this Saturday.
It's
yeah.
Saturday, yeah.
Or last Saturday if you're listening to this
Or
podcast.
last Saturday. That's right.
Yesterday?
Future or past.
Yesterday, right?
Yesterday on YouTube, 2 days ago on the streaming services. Yeah.
I'm confused.
Cool. Let's give a shout out to Enlightenment Entertainment.
Yeah, they had a great setup going in Fairport there.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, for
Yeah.
the Jerry Garcia.
80th birthday party. Yeah, that was a really cool. I mean, we were there during the daytime, but it was a cool setup. You can see everything going on. I can imagine at night.
You can see the pictures at night if you go to their website, their Facebook, their Instagram.
Yeah, we bailed and went and caught some more bands down at Seabars Fest. That was a great time as well.
Yeah, and then I took one more and went to the Beachland.
Yeah, you were.
Oh.
To see Cats Meow do it. And the one and only Shoreline Funk All-Stars that Marty here is a member of.
Yeah, that was a fun night. What a great show. Yeah, that 80th anniversary of 80th birthday of Jerry. It was so rough to like find that out. I'm like, man, do we have time to get down there? Can we check this out? Because I love I got into Grateful Dead a while back. Well, this is maybe 7 years ago, a while back. Used to be part of a band in Chicago. We were Cream Puff Warriors. That you don't listen. I never really listened to Grateful Dead, and then since that band, it's just like see it. Anytime Jerry or Grateful Dead pop up, it's like instantly you're like, okay, yeah, I'm part of this. Yeah, this is all good. So that's cool. That was a good show. I know a lot of people went out to that. That's cool. That would have been a cool little thing to go see.
My band was supposed to open up. One of my other bands was supposed to open up, and our bass player got COVID the day before. He's like, I'm sick. I'll see how I feel tomorrow. Took a COVID test. Can't do it. But it was the return of Grav, one of our favorite Cleveland bands, doing a Grateful
They were
Dead
killing
set.
it.
Yeah.
We almost were able to have Steve from Grav just fill in, like say, hey, you're gonna be like your amp's gonna be there anyway. Can you learn these few songs? You're like, no. Yeah. He said yes at first. Like 20 minutes later, he's like, this is our first show back. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
And so we didn't play. So the event started a little late, but everyone got longer sets too, and But Rust Belt Ragtops will be back in action very soon.
Cool.
Everybody's all recovered, I presume.
Well, just the one guy. When he sent that, I took his COVID test right away. It was negative, like that morning. That I would have given it to you.
Hey, I had it once at least. It sucked, but I'm around, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so.
Thankfully, yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Cool. How was what was that like in Chicago? I'm interested in knowing about the music scene in Chicago.
Chicago, the music scene it's amazing, and how do I describe this? There's so much music. You can do whatever type of genre of music, whatever type of style, however you want to do it, you can do it in Chicago. There's a market for you. It's just how hard you grind. There is not a lack of good music in Chicago. That is not the problem. The problem is trying to convince the venues that you can make them money. That's I mean, and it sounds pretty. It sounds, I don't know. It sounds pretty rough coming off that way, but there are phenomenal musicians that do not get enough credit in Chicago, and it's not. There's no backstabbing with musicians. It's you're a musician, you're a gigging musician. You find your niche. If you're playing every night, if you have a residency at, we had a residency at Tonic Room. There's that now is Golden Dagger, but they still do stuff there. There's, if you have a weekly thing at Martyrs or Shuba's or any of these amazing other Reggie's Rock Hall or Rock Hall and there's so many other places that you can get your foot in the door. You can find your niche and make money, but in terms of support by promoters. There are a lot of people who want to promote music that don't necessarily know how. What they do know how to do is learn from other promoters. They learn from the bigger promoters and talent buyers. But you have a lot of people wanting to take you in and show you around, and especially the younger guys. There's one promoter that I won't say his name. Even though he probably won't hear this, but one of my old bands, Chicago Funk Mafia, we did a show, and it was a showcase, and we did not we were an 8-piece funk band, another one, and because I love funk, so we did this show, and it was a showcase. It was at Goose Island, Wrigleyville, so it was about, I don't even know, a quarter block away from actually Wrigley, and we brought tons of people out. There was it's like $20 for tickets. It was out of control. We didn't have any say in any of that. They were like, we'll give you 45 minutes and then we'll see what's off the door and you make that. We're like, we're just starting out. That's fine. Even though we were all seasoned musicians. And at the end of the night, we walked away with $150, even though we packed this place. And we're like, how did this come up? He's like, oh, well, we had to take our cut. And the other bands, like, we paid you guys, but we couldn't pay the other bands. And then Goose Island had to take their cut from it. We go back, we're like, what did Goose Island have to take? What did you guys? Because it's not like we didn't know people in the music scene. We've established ourselves as individual musicians coming together. So we reached out to somebody who worked there. They're like, we didn't make anything off of that. So this one promoter ended up taking all the cash, and they gave it to us. They gave us $150 just so they could say, yeah, we paid them, or because we brought it up. There was another time with the same promoter that they wanted us to play the Metro. Metro's massive. It's right there in Wrigleyville as well. But they were going to stack 9 bands on, but you could play the Metro. You could play this venue, but there was punk bands, ska bands, rock bands, metal bands, rappers, all on this showcase. But you had to, you got $1 for every person that you brought in. And you're like, well, how does that make any sense? You're selling tickets for $15, but we get $1 for every one person, and then we have to sell the tickets, and we don't get a cut off the tickets. It's like, so you get, and it's there's a lot of people that are taken advantage of in Chicago.
Wow. But
as many people that are getting taken advantage of, there's other people who are opening their doors to the new people. I think Chicago is one of the toughest cities to break out in, or to establish yourself. But once you establish yourself, you're there. If you keep being consistent and making sure that you're up on your marketing and your self-promotion, because you have to promote yourself. There's no promoter. That's just a title. He's not even going to print the posters. He's getting you a foot in the door. And if you do not know how to promote yourself as a musician, and as a business, you are your own business. If you do not know how to do that, you're not going to prosper, and there's no one that can teach you. You know, you'll find some cats. I'm pretty pessimistic about that, but I had to learn my own way. You know, I had to go out there and do grassroots guerrilla marketing. You know, buying 300, 400 and 500 stickers for my band through, my buddy Franklin. And, he would cut me a deal, and he was like, yeah, just get out there. Love you guys. Love you. I know what you're doing. Go out there and just go to shows, go to the Aragon. Just hand out stickers and flyers for your next show, and not even go to the show, whatever it was. You stand outside Disco Biscuits or Fish on New Year's Eve, or Humphreys on New Year's Eve run when they do it. You just stand outside, and anybody who came in or out, you just gave them whatever you could, and you slapped your posters on everything. It's a city where if you want to be something, you have to put into it as much as you want out of it, because there's so much great music.
Yeah.
You go to Rose's Lounge, you listen to blues. You go to the Green Mill. Saturday nights after midnight, we used to go to the Green Mill and listen to Sabretooth, and they're some of the hottest cats you'll ever hear play jazz. The bebop stuff, current stuff. Green Mill was Al Capone's hangout for the longest time. He owned that place on Lawrence and Broadway, right by the Aragon and the Riv up there. And the biggest thing about Chicago is, if you're good, you need to do your own self promotion. You need to make those opportunities for yourself, because no one's going to do them for you. And so that kind of hardens you a little bit as a musician, because
does it feel different here? Because it feels about the same here, what you're describing, like what we do to get people out, to get shows, to put them together.
It for me, it being older, and being older than I was when I started music, and kind of knowing what I need to do in order to be successful with what I do, and what I do with other people and what other people do with me. Coming to Cleveland, there is a grind. There's always going to be a grind as a musician, because the last thing you learn is how to promote yourself, is how to really get yourself out there. You'll see songwriting classes. You'll see so many other classes in general showing you how to make the music instead of how to get your music out there. And I'm not talking digitally. I'm saying grassroots, guerrilla. Like, you need to know how Facebook works. You need to know how, if you make a boosted post or a promoted ad, how do you target your certain demographic and your market? It doesn't matter if your market is in Cleveland, but how do you get it to other markets that people are listening to the same type of music? Get it to get it to Cincinnati, get it to Pittsburgh. That people are coming from those locations because they want to hear it. Good, get it to Columbus. A lot of bands roll through Columbus, sometimes miss Cleveland, because they're going a different direction, or that's just how it is. But Cleveland, there are some really, really beautiful things happening here with music, and the promoters here, it's always going to be a struggle to get your original music and get your foot in the door. But I feel like it's more accepting here because your community is so tight knit. You guys have a beautiful music community. It doesn't matter if you're purple with green breath. It doesn't matter who you are. If you are part of this crew, the people in the crew are going to help you too. The older cats who've been doing this, who've been going through the rigmarole, they're going to be like, yeah, come on, jump on a bill with us. Let's introduce you to whomever. Oh no, we'll get you on a bill at Beachland, or oh no, I think the Crock Shop would dig you, or I think we'll get you at Mayhall's, we'll get you at Winchester, we'll get you maybe we can get you at that foundation room. Maybe we'll see if we can do something. At least get your foot in the door. It's more inviting here, especially with with what you guys got going on with your music scene. I think one of the best things coming out of Cleveland is the music.
Nice.
So props to you guys. And
so how long can we get? How long is it going to take for you to change that from you guys to we? You're part of it now.
Hey, it's only been 10 months.
It's I'm still getting used to the lifestyle of Cleveland, but it's not going to take long. It's not going to take long till we. I've been accepted here, and it feels good to just to be a part of something, especially here. Just like I was saying, you guys are just some of the most beautiful musicians, beautiful people I've met. You're so welcoming, and I feel like I'm already a part of this scene. I just don't want to come in here and be like, oh yeah, and it's like, you don't even know, man. You don't even grow up here. What are you talking about? Like, I don't want to be that guy. I want to see what this scene has to offer, and I want to just add to it. I want to do what I can to bolster what you guys have been working hard for. So hopefully I can be a we soon. I'd love that.
Good, yeah. And coming from a larger city, I'm sure like what you can add to the table will be like innovative and like things that we have overlooked or haven't even thought of. And so we're excited to hear that kind of stuff. Is there anything that like is on your mind that you think would make this scene better just from experiences in a larger market?
I don't think I've been around long enough to really. I mean, I've really been concentrating on, writing original music. Trying to write original stuff. I'm not. The thing is that I'm not. I used to worry about everyone else. I used to worry about what these cats are doing, what this band's doing, and and have a little tinge of jealousy because I come from a place where it's eat or be eaten. It's like, but here I don't feel that. I think that. I don't really know. I'm trying to think. I think that I need to see what y'all are about. I don't think that, I'm a fly on the wall right now. And I want to add whatever I can, but I want to take away as much as I can and build that. I think that's the only thing.
One thing I think we have going for us as a smaller market or community is there's not a lot of expectation, like self-expectation for us to like do music as a living because there's not the demand for it as much and there's not as much money to pay performers as there is in like the bigger cities. But so almost all of us, I feel like we've got a day job. Like that's our reality that we accept. And there are some of the most amazing cats though from here that knew their worth, took it to Nashville, took it to LA, New York, and they are doing it for a living there because that's just more opportunity, and we're trying to build this community. One of the reasons I feel like we're so tight is because we aspire to be able to make that a reality here as this city grows.
Yeah, I think you say that people they find their voice here and then they go somewhere else to accomplish and to manifest their dream. I think that since you brought this up, I think that as musicians and as the younger community or a younger community, a little less conservative necessarily. I think that Cleveland as a music scene in Cleveland, you need to hold your people here. You need to find things to keep them here and not be like, okay, I was born here, but I moved here. I need to go somewhere else for my opportunities. A lot of people who move to Chicago, they never leave, because they have all those opportunities because those people built that. And what you guys are doing with your podcast, with your music, that's what's going to keep people here. It's going to show people that you have what everywhere else has. It's just getting it out there. And you guys are doing a fantastic job in doing that and supporting the scene and being a part of the scene. And I think the biggest problem is keeping people here. Keep them here. Grow the community. Hold on to everyone. You have a big band. I know you got the big names who came out of here. You guys had Bone Thugs. You guys had, Kid Cudi. You guys had Machine Gun Kelly, the big pop stars. You guys got so many other people who are so successful that came out of here, but not necessarily coming back here. Keep them here. Give them a reason to stay here. What is Cleveland going to offer them? And I think having a less conservative view of how things used to be and opening up, because you see it here. You see the development that's happening in Cleveland. You see even the flats. You see, what they're trying to bring nightlife. They're trying to bring prosperity, but with the music and everything. I think you guys, it's happening. It's just grab the reins now. The forward motion is happening, but I'll keep them here. And I think you guys are doing your part. You guys are telling.
Cool, appreciate that.
Yeah,
that's one of our goals with this is to keep everything tight and to get out there, like goals, get out there, new music and more sense of community than we already have, and it's coming pretty tight. And I'm glad you were able to fill in. We had a cancellation today. Is one reason we got Mark in last minute, and we're like, I'm glad that we have sort of out of towner. I think you're our first Cleveland roots guy that's in here.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Mikey.
Oh,
Yeah,
was Mikey here and went and came back?
Mike was in Chicago
For 5 years.
for 5 years.
Yeah, and then he came back here. Yeah. We talked about that too, and in talking with Mikey Silas has been a huge. One of the reasons I believe that we're here is because of him, not just because of work. It's because of his brilliant mind too, and what he's doing. It's people like Mikey Silas. It's people like you guys that are showcasing how beautiful this city is. Now you got to show it to everyone else. Now it's the next step is, you can only get this in Cleveland. Not just, a hot dog with, kielbasa with pierogies at the Indians game, or the Guardians game.
You guys hear that?
How dare you?
Like, subscribe, and share.
I apologize. I'm so
Did
sorry.
you get your shot, Mr. Producer?
But yeah, you guys are doing phenomenal work, and thank you for having me.
Oh, thanks for coming in.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah.
Well, not done yet.
Cool. All right.
Cool. Let's talk about what you've been doing in Cleveland. Let's talk more about the Shoreline Funk All Stars. You guys started doing these shows, and tell us all who's playing with you.
So this all started from an open mic night at the Grog Shop on Thanksgiving evening. Right after we ate, we didn't know anybody. I reached out to Mikey Silas. He's like, "Yeah, come through. That'd be great. We can talk about whatever. You can jump up on some tunes." And that's where I met Chris Walker, and we all started talking. Like, hey, we had this awesome jam. I think we played Use Me, or we played Feeling All Right. And we all were up there playing it, and we were looking at each other like, okay, all right, yeah, we're feeling this.
Yeah. Joe Cocker.
Or Traffic. I was in Traffic cover band, so I know the Traffic version. So, to the roots. But so we started talking, and we're like, who can we get to fill this band out? We need bass. We need trumpet. We need a horn section. We need a guitarist. We need keyboards. So they kind of reached out to other people in the scene. We have Eric Levine on trumpet. He's phenomenal. He's a local cat, and he blows in the best way possible. He just gets all those notes out, and he makes them sound pretty. Mikey Silas, our lead singer, adds so much character to the band and so much energy. We have Chris Walker on drums, and just his style and the way he adds things to what we're trying to portray is phenomenal. We had Seth Boyle on bass for our first show, and then we found out that because we played January 30th. Our first show was January 30th. We were the pre and post party in the Foundation Room for Humphreys McGee's show at House of Blues. So we were like, let's do an after party because there's nobody doing an after party. And back in Chicago, there will be 10 after parties. You bounce after parties after the show, and then you'll be out until 4 a.m, and then all of a sudden you're where is it?
That's when your bars close in Chicago, right?
There's a couple that have been grandfathered in. You can't open a 4 a.m. bar anymore, but there's a couple grandfathered in, and we used to go to this place called Underground Wonder Bar. So that was always, that was a late night spot, or Al Capone's place, the Green Mill.
Still 2:30 here. But
Yeah.
Some of them close at 2. Kick you out.
Yeah, they'll just kick you out. Yeah, you can drink, but you can't drink here. So we did that show, and we got a bunch of covers. We just wanted to make sure it was going to be a good time. Seth ended up moving away, and we were upset until we found. I mean, we were still upset. He's a phenomenal bass player, but we were able to find another phenomenal bass player, Doug Gallo. And
we were just talking about him 2 weeks ago when we talked to Andy Russo.
Oh yeah, he's a phenomenal man, a phenomenal bass player, and he's added so much to this band. His stylistically and being tasteful with his playing, and we have, who else do we have? We have Donald Pelk from Lillier, I believe that's how you pronounce their band. He's a great dude, funny man, great guitarist. We also have Jeff Malashak as well. He's in Vibe and Direct, and he's just a wizard. He's a wizard on the keyboards.
And Leo's Lemonade.
And Leo's the Lemonade slaps. Yeah. It's real good.
I was fortunate enough to get it the very first time at local Loveland.
Yeah, same. Yep, same thing. Yeah.
That was about the best thing about that festival.
That was the best thing about that festival, and we'll leave it at that. So we have this group of just absolute killers, and every time we get together, it's just a blast to play with them. And right now we're in the process. We've since everyone, this is an all-star group. Everybody has their own projects, their primary projects. And now that we're seeing this start to take traction, this is becoming a primary project as well for everyone. But, during the summer, we knew that there were going to be people out doing their wedding band stuff, they're scheduling, they're booking festivals. I just came into this, I came in November, and I'm like, yeah, let's book festival. And I'm like, it's like, we have everything booked. Mikey is playing, every day, 3 times a day, basically, with Apostle Jones. So, this summer was kind of chill. We laid back. We did have a couple shows. We did do another Foundation Room show. We played at Grog Shop earlier in the fall, late fall, with Carlos Jones. They were phenomenal. First time hearing them was playing a show with them. So that was real fortunate to be a part of that. And then our 4th show was this last one at Beachland Ballroom with Cats Meow and Uncle Gnarly. Shout out to Charlie. And Mellow Man Funk. And that was it was just a great show. It was just fun. We had Michael Miller from Vibe and Direct sit in for Don, and he just shreds. There's no other way to put it. So the goals for Shoreline are whenever we can meet, whenever we can get this going. We're trying to schedule, trying to get the practices in, trying to we're just trying to herd the cats right now, trying to...
Yeah, it's got to be something with that many people, and everybody's got another project.
Yeah, it's, but we can, I wasn't disappointed knowing that, it's like, sometimes it's frustrating, but knowing that we all are frustrated that we can't get together because we have other awesome shit going on. Yeah. Like it's really not. It's definitely not the worst. So we're writing new original music. I've been really trying to get some original stuff out. I know that everyone else in the band has been working on it. We're going to be doing a residency for October, November, and December, which you can find at Shoreline Funk All Stars on our Facebook page. We're going to be posting those pretty soon. We're going to be getting the artwork and all that going. We've got merch now after our, we were selling that. So 4 shows in.
I picked up a couple stickers.
Yeah, they're pretty. Mikey designed all that stuff. So if anybody needs designs, hit him up. Yeah. He knows what's going on. He does a bang up job. And so right now we're just trying to write originals and really see how far we can take this band because there's so much potential. So
Cool.
yeah.
Do you do a lot of improv on stage, and take your writing from the stuff you come up with?
Not necessarily. I think we do record our stuff and we do listen to it. But there may be some ideas that we hold on to. I know that we have a little jam that we did for a promotional thing for the Beachland, and it was called Promo Jam. And now it's like, okay, so let's throw that in the set. It's like, okay, cool. And then we have a head that the horns play, and then we improvise. And now we're developing that a little bit. So I guess, yeah, we're starting to develop some of the ideas that we've come up with into full-fledged songs. And it's the improvisation that we do on stage, we like to leave it there. We like it. We don't ever really do the same thing improvisationally, or opening up for a jam. We never do the same thing twice. We did a 30-minute Get Out of My Life Woman by Jerry Garcia Band. We did that at Foundation Room. And then we did it at Beachland, but we did it for 15 minutes. It just didn't feel, the right way. So we're like, hey, let's just get it out here. Let's go into something else. We're not feeling this. It's a great jam, but let's go somewhere else. And then
I thought it was going great. You sang on that, right?
I did. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I pretend sometimes. So.
You don't sing much, you mean?
I don't. There's a couple. Back in Chicago, there was a couple things that I used to sing. In my dead band, I used to sing "Get Out of My Life, Woman." I just love that tune. I think I started singing that because the drummer was like, "We got to get you on a song, man. Like, we got to do this," because he heard me from his brother's band. I was in a Traffic cover band called 40,000 Headmen, and so he heard me sing in that band, Rock and Roll Stew. I would sing that song. And he's like, we got to get you on something. And I had just gone through, miserable breakup. I'm like, I got this song. So went after that. And it's just one of those tunes that I feel comfortable on. And so I don't sing too much. And since we have Mikey in the band, there's sometimes what I do is I'll record my lyrics just so he's got a blueprint. Yeah. Of kind of like, okay, these are the lyrics. This is kind of what I'm going for pentameter and pitch and kind of inflection. But then I turn around and I say, but you can do whatever the hell you want. Like
you
this,
be you.
You're the singer. Yeah, this is you. So don't just go with it. I'll write the parts. I'll get an idea down. Yeah. Just go for it. Do that voodoo you do.
I think Pete Townshend did that with the Who stuff. He would write it all out and he'd send them all completed album. Like, this is what it's going to be. Learn your parts.
Yeah.
Like you.
Yeah.
He would come up with all that stuff and then send it to them, and they'd learn it and come record it.
It works.
Do it their own way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, Marty. Man, thanks for coming out. It was good to meet you. A good chit chat with you and sit down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Learn all about the saxophone.
Right.
Thank you guys for having me. This was great. Yeah. So,
you're welcome. Do you have anything else, Chuck?
Well, just our closer is all I got.
All right.
So we always wrap up the show with a recommendation for either a movie, TV show, or like a YouTube channel to check out.
Oh man, YouTube. I'm guilty pleasure. Ryan's
World.
Watch Back to the Future. No. I watch all crazy YouTube stuff. I secretly watch, well, not secretly anymore, but I watch video game streamers on YouTube, survival building and stuff like that. So we won't go there. It's a little boring, a little weird, but a good movie. You know what? Crazy as it sounds, I watched Prey on Hulu. It's the new Predator movie. Yeah. And it's, there's the Predator franchise and, all those other ones that happen between Predators or Predator 2 and then up to this one. Yeah. I think Prey is it's up there. It's definitely, it goes Prey, Predator, Prey, then Predator 2. It's one of it's a great movie. It throws it back to just like there's no real guns. It's like fur trappers and the Native American lifestyle is so beautiful, and the scenery I think is one of the biggest things that drew me to that. So
it's set in like that times, like settler times, or
yeah, I think
pre-settler times.
It's like it's settler times. So I think that it's like maybe late 1600s, early 1700s, and there's some cool little crossovers that you see that you don't realize it unless you've watched The Predator. So there's little Easter eggs in there that are pretty
cool.
slick. So if you're looking for something, I think it's like 2.5 hours. So
All right.
it's a nice one.
All right. You seen anything good lately?
I've been watching the Casino Guitars channel. It's a guitar shop out of one of the Carolinas, but they put out really great content, just random talks about what is guitar YouTube going to look like during a recession, like weird things like that. You're like,
Nice.
all right, what is that going to be like, and yeah, should you get a custom shop, Strat? Is it worth it? Things like that. So I've been digging that channel.
Nice.
Yeah. How about you?
Well, I've been doing some fill-in gigs with Carlos Jones and the Plus Band, and so I'm getting in touch with roots reggae, and so I've been watching a lot of documentary about the history of reggae music and the old school guys.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Nice.
I'd recommend checking that stuff out on YouTube. There's like a BBC series about the history of reggae music.
Okay.
That's on YouTube.
I have to check that out. That sounds great.
It's amazing.
All right.
Cool. All right, Marty Gierczyk.
Gierczyk.
Got it.
Cool. Well, I'd like to thank you again. Thanks,
Thanks for
Chicago,
coming in.
for giving them up.
guys.
Yeah, my
thanks,
wife's over there
Cleveland
right
Bourbon. Cool. All right, for the Cuyahoga Sound podcast, I'm Evan Stone.
I'm Chuck Schilling.
Peace.